Welcome to Gifted and Guided. I'm your host, Naila. Around here, we're all just figuring it out. Slightly confused, walking imperfectly towards purpose, but doing it with grace. My hope is that you take something from this episode and remember, you are doing your best. But the key word is doing. Keep showing up for yourself and don't overthink it. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, because your voice matters here too. All right, let's jump in. It all started when a record label executive's son got an internship in his field. I'm really excited to get more insight into this one-liner from our guest, Olivia F. Scott. Oh, she's amazing. She's an expert marketing consultant, producer, wellness advocate, and someone that I once called my coworker when we were at Essence. Here we are many years later, and Olivia, I'm just so excited to actually, I want to also add, and an author.
That's right.
As of recent. I'm so excited for you to be here. In your book, you dropped so many gems, so I already know that we're in for a treat. But welcome.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much. It is an honor and a privilege to share space with you. You know how much I respect you. I respect all that you're doing. And many of us who've gone through the halls of Essence, whether we're contractor or full-time, we walk away with such a wonderful sisterhood. So I'm glad that we stayed connected and we're part of each other's sisterhood. So thank you.
Yes. So, okay, I'm so curious to know about this story with the record label executive's son getting an internship in his field and that being the starting point for you. So prior to that, where were you in life? What was going on? What were your interests? How did this align?
Yep. So I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, a little black girl, big dreams. My father was a broadcast journalist, and he also was a salesperson. My mother was an English teacher. My father also was a singer and musician. So I had this exposure to words and performance, and I'd gone all the way to third and state in Tennessee for like vocal recitation. So I had this dream of being a broadcast journalist and working in radio. That was originally what I kind of wanted to do, or TV. Then I also had this dream of also wanting to work in the music industry. But you know, when you're young, you really don't know how you get into any of it. You just know that you like talking, you like speaking, you have a nice voice. People tell you have a nice voice at church, doing Easter speeches and all that, right?
Right.
And so you're trying to make a life of it. Your father's a musician, you love music, and you're just trying to figure out what to do. So I was at University of Missouri, okay? And at Mizzou, I was majoring in journalism, and I was interning at that point, right before this internship opportunity. So I interned at the local radio station, 2 stations as a DJ, one of them in PR. And then I also was interning at a promotions company. And I also worked at the record store. So I was kind of, music adjacent. Yeah. Hustling, young, right? And so I wanted to work in music. In the music industry. And so when you work at the record store, you have all these CDs and cassettes. There was more cassettes at the time, right?
Wow. And throwback.
Right. Cassettes, and the cassettes were from Atlantic Records or from Columbia Records or Sony or Universal. So I was like, okay, if I'm interning at the record store, I'm working at the record store and interning at radio station, I want to actually work at a record label. But I'm just this little girl from Memphis who lives in Columbia, Missouri, going to school. That's all I am. So I talked to my cousin, my big cousin, he was a big time guy at FedEx. And he was like, well, I can get you on at FedEx in Memphis. And I was like, I don't want to work. And he said, well, those jobs in New York in the music industry, they really are reserved for people who, they're family members. It's really not like you can't go in cold. You have to know someone. And I was like, for real? So when I was the summer before I got the internship, right, which is where we're going next, I pulled out all these cassettes from underneath my bed, and I called information. With the time it was 2125, I think 1212 from New York. And I cold called and it's like, hi, I'm Olivia. I'd like to get an internship. Did that for several. And
how long did that take?
That took, girl, honey, I was 18 and I'm 51 now. I don't remember how long because time is fluid, right? But I think at that time, I probably dedicated a solid month or two.
Wow.
And I remember having a sheet that where I kept records, Atlantic records, the persons, because back then there was no Googling, there was no LinkedIn. So I would
Yellow
call
pages.
yellow, but I didn't have the yellow pages in Missouri for New York.
Right.
So you could get up to 3 numbers at a time. Right, I literally was looking in the back of my cassettes and I saw Atlantic records for Donny Hathaway, Atlantic records for Aretha Franklin, like the artists that I liked. So I was going to come and call the record labels, the only the ones in New York, not LA, because I had a cousin I had 2 cousins that lived in New York that I could sleep on their couch that summer. So I was like, okay, 222, 555, or 212-555-1212. Can I get the phone number for Atlantic Records, Columbia Records, and Universal, whatever, right? Whatever the numbers. They gave me the number. I'm a cold call, right? So fast forwarding through that, I actually got 3 invitations.
Wow.
3 invitations, right?
And was that immediate?
No. It was like, literally, it was like, so it manages Atlantic Records. So, Atlantic Records, how may I help you? And I'm like, hi, my name is Olivia. Can I talk to the marketing department, please? And they would pass me along. Marketing department, how may I help you? I was like, hi, my name is Olivia. I'd like an internship. How can I get an application? That was kind of how I did it. That was how I did it, And so I ended up getting an invitation from Atlantic Records, Columbia, and EMI. I think it was Columbia. It was EMI and Atlantic for sure. EMI Records they had a partner label. I think it was Columbia, but it may not have been Columbia. But basically, I really wanted Atlantic. Really wanted Atlantic. And Atlantic was paying $8 an hour.
At the time, that's a lot.
That was a lot of money. I'd worked 3 jobs that semester to save up money to live with my cousin to live off that summer. But to have income coming in is always a good thing too, versus just living off of what you pay, what you saved.
Right.
That summer, that summer, I got the jobs. The guy's name was Leo Munoz. I'll never forget. His name was Leo Munoz. He was at EMI and another label. It was a sister label for EMI. I've forgotten the sister label. And he was like, you can come, no problem. Wonderful, wonderful Hispanic man that was happy to let me come on in as an intern. And I was going to do 2 days for EMI and 3 days for the other one, but it was unpaid. So I was like, okay. So the Atlantic one, I'd met this wonderful woman by the name of Nicole Sutherland. And she is a mentor and friend to this day. And she was like, and I interned with her. I interviewed with her. And after I interviewed with her, I interviewed with her boss, Michelle Taylor. And keep in mind, and I should go back. I'm going to finish this part, but I'm going to go back to another part of the story that's kind of relevant. Interviewed with them. They fell in love with me. They wanted to hire me. Nicole was like, I can tell you right now, you're the person I want. She was from New Orleans. I was from Memphis.
Oh, wow.
She was a girl who was she had gone to Howard. She was Miss Howard, and she was working as an assistant at that time. She was also a singer. So she connected with me with us both being like hardworking girls from the South, and she wanted to hire me. But she was like, I can't, because the internship has been taken by like this really high up guy's son who was an engineering major.
What? Engineering
major.
Wow. Okay, how did you feel in that moment? Considering the fact that you love music, you were going after this industry, and then you have someone's son stepping in from a different industry. Wow.
It was what my cousin had already told me, right? My cousin was an executive, and he told me, baby, this is how the world works. You're not going to get in. You have to know someone. So it became, okay, well, my cousin did prepare me for this, and he offered me, to get a nice job at FedEx, because that's why I know people, but okay. So I was like, I'm just going to take, again, I'd already prepared for this.
Right.
I saved up maybe $1,500 for the summer. You don't have a lot of money. You're not making a lot of money. But cousin was letting me stay with him for the summer for free. Had like $1,500 for the summer. I was going to be fine. So I accepted the EMI, right?
Okay.
I was going to roll with the free one.
Right.
And then at the last minute, I remember being in my mother's bedroom in Memphis. I was home from Mizzou, preparing to fly out to New York the following week. And my mother was like, Livy, phone. And I answered it in her bedroom. We didn't have cell phones back then. You know how this goes.
Yeah.
So she yelled from the front for me to get the phone. I picked up the phone, hello. And it was Nicole. And she was like, how are you? And she's like, listen, I know this might be late, but the guy's son got an internship in his field. Would you still want the internship? Because I'd love to have you. And I was like, yes. The only thing I had to work through was calling Leo Munoz from EMI to tell him thank you, but no thank you, because he'd already made provisions for me to have a little cubicle at EMI on 2 days and the other one for 3 days. And I was appreciative. This stranger took me in, period, because my cousin had said nobody was going to. So I was happy that I was going to have exposure, not one label, but 2 labels, And so that's pretty much it. After that, the rest is history. I called Mr. Munoz and I was like, hi, Mr. Munoz, I have an opportunity for a paid internship with Atlantic. And he was like, well, it's definitely not the news I want to hear, but I understand. I wish you luck, kid. And that was kind of it. And then I was like, Mama. But it was already, because I was already going to New York. My flight was already set, and my cousin was already expecting me. So it was already happening. It just kind of changed it the week prior. So working with Nicole Sutherland and Michelle Taylor and Euless Cathy in Atlantic Jazz Division, which I want to have a story, the precursor to that too, was the game changer for me. They took me in like the little sister and they taught me everything. And from Atlantic, what I've learned, and I taught this and continue to teach this to any young people, that the caliber of organizations that you work with when you're young, it sets you up for the rest of your career. So I'd had all this internship experience, right, Naila, working at, the record store and the radio station and all that, DJing and things, and PR at the radio station. But having Time Warner Atlantic Records on my resume at 19, 20 years old, it set me up for the rest of my career. Leo Burnett was like, okay, she worked at Time Warner. Then Frankel was like, well, she was at Leo Burnett in Time Warner. It was like a pedigree that you're attaching to your resume at a young age. So it really did kind of set me up.
Yeah, and even with what your cousin said about it being for family members and people within, it also speaks to how once you're in, you kind of become a part of the family, right? And with that, you were able to continue on that journey and expand. Considering that experience, can you share what it was like to go to New York City and live this dream that you were told wouldn't be possible? And what was like working in the industry beyond what you knew from the cassette tapes that you listened to or sort through at one point?
I mean, it was beyond my wildest dreams. I didn't have any preparation for that.
Yeah.
None. I mean,
even with the background, even with it being a part of your family in different ways, it's still new.
No, because I was working in an office building. Let's talk about that, right? I was working at an office building in Rockefeller Center Plaza, right? I was working in 30 Rock.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole experience of, my cousin lived on the Upper West Side at 95th and West End. So walking to the train every day, taking the train, the 2 down to 42nd Street, actually 50th, and then walking. And then some nights I would just walk home, or at least walk from 50th to 2nd.
Okay.
Wow. It was just like, this is a dream. I never could have imagined it or dreamt it, living and working amongst all these executives. And my people didn't dog me out. Like Nicole, you hear the stories with Old Puffy and stuff of making people get coffee and, you know what I mean? They didn't. I did a fair amount of faxing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was sitting right there in meetings with them. One of my jobs that I remembered was organizing the demo box. We would get demos all the time sent to us. And so just going through and seeing who the demos were from, or then getting a phone call from Sylvia Roan's office, Queen Pen Sylvia Roan from upstairs. She was the head of Electra at the time. And they being like, oh, there's a demo from XYZ. Can you fish through the demo box and find it and take it up to Ms. Roan? That was a lot of excitement. Meeting other interns from other labels, because we were with Atlantic, but it was still Warner, Electra, and Atlantic, and we would share music and swap CDs and go to the concerts at night. You know, I was kind of a gopher girl at the concerts, but it was just so much fun. I was there the summer of Brandy,
Oh, wow.
Wanna Be Down, and
Uh-huh.
Aaliyah and Monica, The Boy Is
Wow.
Mine. So
The
that was
like peak era of
peak
music.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer of
Wow.
94. Summer of 94. So this was just a fun time. It was a really fun time. And I'm trying to answer your question directly around, you know, what it was like. It was nothing that ever could have prepared me for being a little black girl from Memphis,
Mm,
who grew up in a two-parent home.
mm.
But mother was a teacher, father was a salesperson and a musician, and also worked in broadcasting. But I just went to school every day. So this notion of like working in a big office building and elevators and, you know, rotating doors, all that was just like so exciting. But I
Yeah.
had home training, Naila. So I wasn't
Right.
like country bumpkin, like, you know, I wasn't like that. It was
Of
just
course.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And, even going through the demo reels, you had to do this at the record store, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of funny to see like full circle moments like that where you never know when you're preparing for your next step or the thing that you're doing may not be the thing you want, but it is what's needed for what's to come.
Correct.
At that point, you were an expert at sorting through, right? And you were like, bet you want me to do that? Got it. And I'll go over to her and hand this. It just gives you this level of confidence and
Correct.
knowing because of experience
Correct.
and the importance behind it, especially a paid internship at the time.
$8? I mean,
They're
I
hard
was
to come
getting
by.
like, because I didn't have any bills. So, you know,
Mm,
$8 an hour times what is that? I'm not great with math. Let's say 8 hours a day, $64. $64 times five. That's right at 300 ish.
we'll go with that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? So you're making $300 a week times two. You're making about $600 every paycheck, less some taxes. I'm bringing home about 450. That was fun. That was fun money. Because again, my cousin didn't want to accept any money. I think at the end, I don't think I knew what money was. I didn't know how much rent cost. And I remember giving him a check for like, it was either $75 or $200 or something, and thinking that that
A
was
lot.
a lot, and was like, okay, I want to thank you so much for letting me stay with you this summer. Now I had to pay all my food,
Okay.
rent in New York. And I was
Yeah.
like, here's his check. And he was like, oh, baby, it's okay. And I was like, are you sure? Because I really want to show you my gratitude. I think coming up that way, Naila,
Hmm.
has always kept me really humble and has
Mm.
always really made me someone that has wanted to help the next generation of people, especially those that did not have the fortune of growing up in the Northeast. Like, I do believe, right? My ex-husband grew up in New York, and a lot of his friends work in music and, whatever. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of like, y'all don't realize that you grew up in this market. You grew up in the Northeast. For those of us who are like in Tennessee and Arkansas, Mississippi and Alabama and New Orleans or whatever, like, this seems like a very intangible reality.
Mm. Hmm.
So I think I've always maintained my humility
Yeah.
and always been extremely grateful, Naila,
Hmm.
because it was the luck of the draw. And yeah, I did some work with the cold calling and the 555-1212, which I'll never ever forget that phone number, I think.
Oh, wow. So that's the exact number.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's information. I'm pretty sure if we call right now, I don't know if anybody uses information anymore because we all have Google. But two
Right.
one two 555-1212 was the information
Wow.
number for New York City back then. And
Mm.
they would give, the operators would answer and give you a max of two phone numbers. So you would say, I'd like the phone number for Atlantic Records. They'd give it to you. And you say, I'd like to also have the phone number for EMI Records. And they would say, hold, and they would give you the next one electronically. And then you would call
Mm.
back. And information cost, I think, 50 cents to $1 per phone call. So it wasn't free, right? And it was also
Right.
long distance. This was before we had cell phones like this, right?
Right.
And you could call. It was the
Before the
whole,
internet.
yeah,
Like,
before the internet. So it's a
yeah.
very different time. But I remember having a grid, having it listed. I'm going to call, I don't have a whole bunch of money, but I'm going to make these 6 calls and get 2 numbers for the 6 calls today. I'm going to write the numbers down, and then I'm going to call, and I'm going to keep calling over and over, because each call is a long distance call, but I'm going to keep calling over and over. So I had that drive and that fortitude and that kind of vision for myself at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it, but God still presented an opportunity for me to forge the life that I have. So I'm always going to be grateful.
Wow. So fast forward to where you are now. I mean, seems like that was just the beginning of your journey. So I can only imagine what everything looked like in between then and now. What's something that you utilize, and you kind of spoke to it, but what do you utilize now from that experience outside of encouraging and uplifting others, and providing opportunities, like within your career and your journey as it relates to the hustle? Because you were grinding. You were willing to find the phone number, to spend the money, to push through, even when others were like, are you sure about that? And today, where you can't necessarily call a number to get someone's contact information, you have to go out and network, or maybe you'll find something on LinkedIn. How have you translated those skills into today and what you do?
I appreciate this question on this day. I appreciate this conversation on this day, because I tell young people who are job searching that I think that the internet has made it easier and more difficult simultaneously to get ahead, right? Whereas I had to call a phone number and get patched through and then have a pitch ready as to who I was, right? I'll never forget, quick story, I'm going to answer the question. One of the guys laughing and be like, okay, kid, what is it? Like, it was funny. I'd be like, hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm from Memphis, and I go to Mizzou, and I would like to know if I can have an internship this summer. And I'll never forget, he was like, okay, tell me why. Tell me about yourself. And I was like, well, because, and he was egging me, and tell me more. And I was just like,
Yeah.
But to answer your question directly.
And that was without AI. Like, you were just on it, ready, giving your truth.
Yeah. Right? That was just, and I will never forget that particular guy, who found it, I think, a little amusing that this little girl had found her way through the phone tree of whatever record label it was and landed on his phone, But I think for me, sister, the difference now and how I'm still very driven. I know now that anything that I want, if it's in the will of God, that I can have it. Anything. I have to work for it. I have to put myself out there. But if I want it, there's nothing that I can't have. And it's got to be aligned with the will of God.
Yeah.
I am not overly religious. I'm very spiritually grounded and connected. And I seek the will of God for my life. If this is what you would have me to do with my gifts and my talent, and this is where you want me to be, and I can be a blessing to someone, then I trust you're going to make a way. You're going to open a door for me. And I'm going to do the work, though, because as we both know, faith without works is very dead.
Right.
But I now know from that dogmatic approach, right, of just like calling and pitching myself. And over the years, very similar when I got my first job, in Chicago, outside of working at Atlantic, and I went back and I graduated from Mizzou, and I ended up working in the advertising industry in Chicago. It was the same kind of approach, right? But I think there's something else that's also key that I'm going to go back to. It's something about follow-up. And I tell young people this all the time.
Yes.
That when you're young, pretty much there's not anybody, Naila, that's not going to, I'll say it this way. When you're young, many people are willing to share of their stories. We are flattered that you want to give us the time of day as a middle-aged person or older person. And most people want to help younger people. I would say there's probably about 10, maybe 15% of people that I ever encountered when I was younger that did not give me a contact or give me a leg up or give me a piece of advice. Okay?
And when you say young, what age?
I mean,
group?
like between 18 and 30. More like 18 and 27, 28. Like when you're young in your career and you're trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That part when you really just don't know what a record label does and what a PR firm does. You don't know what anybody does, right?
Right.
And you're just you just have this idea of what you want to do with your life kind of thing.
Got it.
So I found that asking for informationals and all those things, it's very easy to get that. I have found, though, is the follow-up. When you ask about like what I'm using from then now, is I can tell you now that sometimes I'm a little, at this age, I'm more addicted to getting the contact than I am to following up. I went to an event last week that I invested my own time and money into going to, that I've only followed up with a fraction of the people that I met. And that's a no-no, right? Back in the day, if I made a contact, it was for me to see it through. And what I'll tell people, especially young people, but anybody, is if you're in a room of 100 and let's say 10 people got the business card of the GOAT in that room, of those 10 people, like you actually made it through the 90 to get that business card of the GOAT in the room, only 2 of them are actually going to follow up.
Yeah.
The other 8 are just going to be like so excited that they got the card, but they don't even know, they're not really ready. They don't have a real pitch ready. They don't really have a business or an idea ready for them or concept to follow up on, but they just have the card.
Right.
And so I think that's been the difference too, because if I go back to how I even got the phone number for Atlantic Records was different, right? Everybody else was cold call. But at my internship at the promotions company in Columbia, we had Christian McBride. He was on one of our shows, the bassist out of New Jersey now. And Christian's not too much older than me. But anyway, he was part of the Young Lions at the time. He was coming to Columbia, Missouri, working a tour date and a show date. And my job was to pick him up from the airport and to get him from the airport to his hotel. Picked him up, and then after the show, he was like, "Sit with me, kid. I'd much rather you sit with me than like all these groupie ladies." They're cool. So I'm just like, I'm with a jazz musician, and we're just talking. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to work in New York at a record label. He was like, call Michelle Taylor. Call Michelle Taylor and tell her that I said to call. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, here's my number. And here's like, just find her. Just find Atlantic Records, but ask for Michelle Taylor. And so I'm like, okay. So that's what I did. I called Atlantic Records, found Michelle Taylor. Nicole was Michelle's assistant, right?
Gotcha.
And so I'm like, hi, my name is Olivia Scott, and I attend Mizzou, and Christian McBride was one of our artists locally, and I met him, and he told me to call you. And she was like, did he? Christian McBride. You met Christian McBride? I was like, yes, ma'am, I met Christian McBride, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, well, when you're in New York, give me a call. So I booked a flight to New York, stayed with my cousin. I'm in New York. Can I come by? And that's when I met her and Nicole. And they were like, okay, we'd like to have you. We have an internship as jazz internship program, and you can be our intern. And then, Nicole was like, I got to interview a few more people, but I'm pretty sure I want to rock with you. And then ultimately she was like, you don't get it because this guy's son, whatever. But all of that was follow-up. And I could go through other stories, which I won't bore you with, but I'm sure you have as many yourself around how the follow-up and the follow-through is a big portion of what got you to where you are.
Yeah, 100%. But I also want to add, well, actually, I'll save that because it's focusing on the gift in this story. So before I share my thoughts, what would you say is a gift within this journey that you've received?
Persistence. Persistence.
Yeah.
Not listening to, like, literally being one of those people that I've always had my own mind.
Yeah.
And I have a lane, and I'm a horse in that lane, and I have blinders on. I'm not listening to people telling me, girl, you can't get no job in New York. You from Memphis. Girl, you can't do that. I didn't even hear it. You know what I mean? I've always been clear and focused and persistent. And I think that is the gift, is persistence. I was relatively smart, but being smart was never like number one. Like, I was class president, and my friend circle that I had, we all ranked pretty well with the SATs and ACTs, but I wasn't number one. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that I was that smart, because I think some people go, I'm not smart enough. I think that the drive definitely outweighs how smart I am.
And that played a major role. I would say following your heart was a major gift throughout this journey. From the beginning, you've always had a love for music as it's related to your family, to then fast forward, like having this vision of working in New York, a huge city, not being small-minded, limiting yourself to your surroundings, to what you see, and believing that that's your reality or the truth of what your future looks like. To also not listening to the opinions of others, even if they're close to you or family members, because they have such a valuable role in how they show up in our lives and what they say to us and how it impacts the decisions we make. But then fast forward to being able to use your voice and knowing who you are when calling these people and pitching yourself for these opportunities. Despite the environment, what people are saying could be possible or not possible, you're still standing 10 toes down and believing, I can do this. This is what I want. I'm following my vision. And even when the internship that you wanted didn't necessarily show up as the opportunity, you still kept moving forward because you were like, this is what I want and I'm going to find a way.
Right.
And it ended up pivoting into the lane in the opportunity that you wanted because of you speaking up to that musician and letting him know what you want. A lot of people are afraid of sharing what they want because they don't think it's possible or whatever it is, limiting beliefs. But you did not allow that to be the case, even with the level that he was at, right?
Yeah.
And some people might see that as like intimidation or you don't think it's possible for me. So I just want to work in New York. No, you were like, this is what I want.
Right.
And he's like, all right, you know what? Call this person. And it all connected in the end. So from the beginning, you've followed your heart, and throughout the entire journey, it shows because you were able to advocate for yourself and own your lane, own your power and your vision at the same time.
I thank you. I mean, thank you for seeing me and seeing it from the outside. I never looked at it like that, but you're right. And you said something that I often tell young people that I was saying to you earlier. In addition to the follow-up, I tell them to know what you want. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know it. I know it's hard, especially when you're in a soft-skilled industry. Right? It's not like I want to be a civil engineer or I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. It's a little different when you're like, I want to work in the music industry. Well, doing what kind of thing? But to your point, my ability to articulate what I wanted allowed for other people to help. I do believe, like I said, as a young person at 18 to 30, there's another story, which I won't go into, which got me to Chicago in the same way. What do you want to do, kid? Same thing from an alumni person at Mizzou. That's how I got to Chicago. Being able to say, I want to, right? So I encourage people, young people, to spend some time, even if it changes, because here's the deal, Naila. When I met Christian McBride, before I worked at Atlantic, I said I wanted to work in the music industry. After working in the music industry that summer and doing a fair amount of faxing and just stuff that was a little go-for-like, but it wasn't using my gifts per se. I was like, well, and it was actually with Nicole's help, with everything happening with Napster. She was like, you're getting a degree in journalism and advertising, and why don't you start your career in advertising and then come back to this later? Because what she found was in the music industry, they make you start as an admin, as an assistant. You know what I mean? Or your coffee, all those girls, like Bill Bellamy's girlfriend was at the next cubicle. My friend Nicole was Miss Howard. These were girls, she had her master's and her undergraduate, but they're going to start you. And so she was like, why don't you start in advertising? So I was like, for real, Nicole? And she was like, yeah, I mean, I just think the music industry is beginning to decline with all this peer-to-peer sharing. And I think the digitization of music is going to end up leaving the industry in a different space. I'm watching it. Get your career groundings. Next year, when I was graduating, and the woman who was head of alumni affairs, Marty, I've forgotten Marty's last name, what do you want to do, Olivia? And I was like, I want to work in advertising in New York. Well, she was like, well, I know a guy who happens to be a Mizzou alum. He's not in New York, but he just moved back here. He was out of Chicago. He was a chief creative officer. Keep in mind, I didn't know what chief creative officer meant.
Right.
I know. Go to this guy's house, just kind of like chilling in my t-shirt, looking crazy. He's taking a look at my advertising stuff. Come to find out, he was chief creative officer of Leo Burnett advertising agency in New York. He created Tony the Tiger.
Wow.
He created, I believe he created, but he definitely created United's Flying the Friendly Skies. He was that level. He was that dude. And he allowed me to come to his house, and then he gave me an introduction to a guy in Chicago, and that's how I got into advertising. So it was always about articulating what I wanted, and what I'm hoping there is that people know that it changed from year to year. But whatever it was I said, I was saying it, and somebody heard me and was like, I got somebody that does that. And same thing now. I tell my young people, my students, if you go on my LinkedIn and you have already identified the companies you want to work for, and you see somebody that I'm connected to first level, not the second and third, but the first, and I have a relationship, there's no reason I'm not going to make the introduction for you.
Wow.
Not one of them has done it.
Wow.
Not one. Not one.
Because it's so rare to meet someone like you who's willing to do that. And I know that that's not your issue, problem. That's on them to step away from that belief. But I mean, you offering that is such a blessing. And for them to not take advantage, wow.
Yeah, I have 400 people I'm connected to on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn forever. And I've got a lot of people from New York, from Chicago, from New Orleans, from Memphis, a lot of relationships. And I'm sincere. If you know that you want to work at Vibe Magazine and you go on my LinkedIn and you see that Danielle Smith, right, my former EIC, that, and again, this is all old, but you saw that she's still there today, which she's not, and you want to work, I'd be like, hey, Danielle, hope you're doing well. I have a colleague, young student of mine in New Orleans, wants an internship. Can they meet with you? Why would I not do that? So many people did it for me, right? So that's what I believe in. I believe in that giving back and paying it forward.
So with that being said, the Gift That Keeps on Giving is our segment where we like to ask our guests to ask a what if question for our audience to have a moment of reflection with your story in mind. So what is your question that you would like to give us?
I hope it doesn't sound too wild or, whatever, but I would say, I would ask them, what if you never went for what you really wanted? How would you feel in 10 years?
Deep question.
And it's hard to know how you're going to feel a day from now or 5 days from now. But if you really think about this thing that's truly your heart's desire, right?
Right.
We all have something that is our heart's desire. It could be anything, where you're going to live, a job you're going to have, where you're going to work, opening a business, launching a new product, a person you want to date. I don't know. It ranges, right?
Right.
But if there's something that's truly on your heart, and you mentioned this earlier, a heart's desire, what if you never go for it? How are you going to feel? What regret would you have? Or how do you think you're going to be able to live your life knowing that? I have a relative who there was a real estate opportunity that she did not take advantage of, I think 30 years ago. And every time she goes to that neighborhood and sees how much it's flourishing, she kicks herself because she wanted to do it. Yeah. She had the money to do it. But her mother told her, oh, don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. And it's right. So it's like, I just invite everybody to really, the whole YOLO concept, Naila, is one that I take to heart with everything that I do in every aspect of my life. If there is something that is on my heart to want, it could be random. It could be a guy at a grocery store. I did that once. It was very weird. It could be a field. I just trust that there is something in that process, whether I get it or not, that I'm supposed to get. But my heart won't rest. My spirit won't rest until the mission is complete.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you have to marry the journey and process and not the outcome. because when you focus on what it'll turn into, then you might be discouraged, or you might limit yourself because maybe it doesn't turn out the way you envisioned. But there's a chance that you got something out of it, whether it's personal growth, whether it's supporting somebody else and being a vessel for them, or it's maybe a pivot that's coming up in your life that you're not necessarily, you can't see, but you're being prepared for it. So to that point, it's just like following through, right? The follow up to your dreams.
Yep.
Right?
You gotta follow through.
We can dream about what could be, but you gotta actually execute and step into it. And a lot of people allow fear to hold them back.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a question. I didn't phrase it that way, but I wanted it because you're saying, what if?
Yeah.
But the question I was going to ask, but it wasn't in the right structure, was what is fear holding you back from? And like, what's on the other side of that fear? You know, I think that's one of the things my cousin has said. She's like, girl, if there's nothing else, you are fearless. Yeah. There's nothing. I mean, think about it, Naila. I mean, from Memphis, I went to Mizzou. From Mizzou, I moved to Chicago. After Chicago, I moved to New York. While I was in New York, me and my ex-husband moved to Newark. Divorced, I moved back. From Harlem, then I moved to New Orleans, and then I'm considering where I'll go next. Maybe here for a while, may not. But always just open to whatever is for me, and moving with a divination, if you will. There's got to be a divine calling. And every time I made a move, the move from Chicago to New York was divine. From New York to New Orleans was divine. And so I'm still here because I haven't gotten a calling to go somewhere else.
So what does that calling look like or feel like? Because it sounds like you just know, but what is that? Because some people might not.
Girl, that's a great question, because it's never you just know. Never, 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 never. It is when it was Chicago. I'll give you the abbreviated version of both of them. Chicago to New York was, and I'll share this because it's relevant. So New York, New York, New York. It was all about New York. But what curbed me and what made me open to Chicago at the last minute was I was a victim of an on-campus attack. Two men. One night, my girlfriend and I were going to a party, college dorm, attacked me, beat me, and attacked me and left me on the ground, and it was a whole thing. And so it was pretty graphic and pretty bad, and I was like, I kind of left being this cloud nine dreamer of New York and was like, maybe I should go to Memphis. So for a moment there was like a lot of thinking. It happened, I think, in March, and I was graduating in May, so just 2 months before I graduated, like 6 weeks before I graduated.
Wow.
And so I share that only to say that could have stumped me. And so I ended up going to Chicago, right? Got the internship in Chicago, whatever. But after about 6 years, and I'd gone from Burnett to Frankel to Ogilvy to DDB, 4 different ad agencies, I was like, this isn't what I wanted to do. I never wanted to work in it. What am I? So I was like, I want to move to New York. It was like, you started this journey for New York. You ended up diverting to Chicago because of an unfortunate circumstance. But do you want to stay here for the rest of your life? Or do you want to try to give New York a shot? Because your whole goal was New York. So I was like, I want to do New York. It was undeniable. I wanted to do New York. Oh, that looked like, I'm going to work a second job at night at Borders Books and Music. I'm going to save up some money, and I'm going to start sending resumes. Well, I was sending resumes to New York, but nobody wanted to take me because New York was cluttered with people. New York is not the place, in my experience, that you get a lot of opportunities opened when you're not there. It's when you get there, I have found, in my limited experience. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to move. I'm just going to move. Well, in that I'm just going to move, right? It was a lot of my other cousin, well, you can stay with me, well, you can use his storage. People just opening doors when you say, this is what I want to do. So that's kind of it's a spirit where you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I feel that either your plan will be received or it'll be stunted. And in that experience, it was open doors. My dad flew up to Chicago from Memphis. We drove the U-Haul to New York. I stayed with my cousin on her floor in her second bedroom for the first 5 months. Found a job, and the rest is history for New York, right?
Wow.
from New York to New Orleans, because I can't say New York to Newark was divine. That was just me and my ex-husband trying to get a real estate property, right?
Uh,
But there was still some good stuff with that. But when I got from New York to New Orleans, that one was one that was divine, because about 10 years into New York, I was like, I think I'm done. I think I've gotten enough. I think I've gotten it. You know, it's very fast paced. I get it. I think I'm ready to move on. And I looked up and I was trying to find a place to go. Me and my ex-husband, that's when we ended up finding Newark. Fast forwarding the story, got the divorce, came back. He did my apartment, my co-op in Harlem. Still just wasn't feeling settled. Feeling like I've done this thing. I'm going to the grocery store on the train with everybody else, going to Trader Joe's, and my life here. I've made it successful. I've been in 3 or 4 companies. I'm an entrepreneur here. I'm a professor here now. I think I'm ready to have a house. I think I'm ready for a change, whatever that change may be for anybody. Fast forwarding, I was working with Essence at the time, and had just finished producing the 2019 Wellness House. The venue owner of the Essence Wellness, the venue that we used, the Essence Wellness House on Camp Street, Miss Martha, she was from Memphis, as I was from Memphis. And I told her that I was moving to Denver. I'd made my decision. I'm moving to Denver. Denver, it's a fitness place. I used to be very much into fitness. And I'm moving to Denver. I'm going to get my body back, get my life back, and just focus on what makes me happy, which is fitness. And she was like, okay. And she sent me a text and said, listen, I know that focus on Denver, and I hope I'm not overstepping, but if I may, I'd like to throw a hat in the ring for New Orleans. And she gave me all these reasons why, and gave me counsel. Keep your money from other places, because the money isn't the same here, but I think you would enjoy living here. And if nothing else, you'll be closer to your father, who's in Memphis for a little bit. When they're gone, they're gone. He's in his twilight years. Just think about it. Well, after that, Naila, that same day, I got the text. I walked to go meet my dad for lunch. I'd already told him I was moving to Denver. I told him for Father's Day in June, I'm moving to Denver. I walk in the restaurant, Daisy Dukes on Royal, and he says, would you think about moving to New Orleans instead of Denver? Right after that text. Number 3, I go to Sarah Jake's Woman Evolved in Denver. Right after that festival, I literally went home, changed, and went right to Denver. I'm in line with a woman who's from New Orleans. Told her after we've met, after the conference, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Denver. I'm moving to New Orleans. And she's like, okay, well, I'm from there and I've got some friends I can connect you with. Long story short, a month, maybe 2 weeks later, she reaches out and says, are you still thinking about moving to New Orleans? I was like, yeah. She said, well, I talked to my ex-husband. We have a home in a neighborhood called Gentilly. It's vacant. You can stay there for as long as you like.
Wow.
So that's what we mean by like
Wow.
just divination and like you
Doors
stepping
opening.
forward. Yes. And just being like, this is the direction I want to go in. And then things coming.
Yeah, and you were determined to move to Denver. And then
Very much.
It's like, even though you were set on it, you were sent a message from someone else to consider something else. And then that started lining up, and the timing of that happening back to back and meeting people, like the alignment.
Right.
But you weren't necessarily seeking those messages that you received. They just came to you. But it also came from you being open to moving. But again, the outcome looked different from what you anticipated. So, wow, that's such a great story. We got a 2-for-1 today. I love it. It's like we had the chance to get to know the younger Olivia and then the Olivia today. I mean, not that today, but that was like a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, that's crazy.
It is. It's like where you just, and that's why, and I asked my mentor recently, I saw her last month, I was like, what's your advice at 75 years old? She says, my advice at 75 years old is don't worry. It all works out. And I said, I understand that now. Now at 51, looking back at that 20-year-old who was Atlantic Records number, Columbia Records, all that. And you see how if you just lean into your gifts, which is why I love and wish all prosperity for what you're doing with your podcast. If you lean into your gifts and you just continue to show up every day in those gifts, the blessing is upon you. I believe that there are different schools of thought on living, and I am one who believes that the universe conspires with me to help me live the will of God. I believe that each of us have been apportioned gifts. I believe that each of us are needed. And I believe that with that, if there is something on earth that I need to do, that with me putting it out there and me putting my energy out there and the world needing it, it's going to come together. I really do believe that.
You pretty much summarized, gifted and guided. So thank you. Because I have the same belief. We all have a story. We all have a purpose. And the goal is to encourage more people to step into that because we need each other. And if you don't show up in it, you're holding back a blessing from someone else. So yeah, we're interconnected, and it shows that your community, whether you know them or not, like people have showed up for you, and that's through divine alignment. So Olivia, I knew we were gonna have such a great conversation today. I'm so thankful for you and for sharing your stories. This is the first time we had a 2-for-1, so just want to say very exclusive experience, and I'm excited to see where you choose to move next. I'm excited for you because I know it's only going to make sense for what's ahead, so please keep me posted.
I will.
Yes. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Gifted and Guided. We'll see you next week. That's it for today's episode of Gifted and Guided. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe, share with a friend, and drop a comment because I love hearing how you're figuring it out too. Until next time, remember, you are gifted, you are guided, and you're not doing this alone. All right, talk to you soon.